We have a real risk of escalation right now in the Philippines between ourselves, the Philippines, and China. The Chinese seem to be testing us, how far they can go with their Coast Guard, their water cannons, other activity, how far they can go without triggering our reaction. If there is a loss of life, will the U.S. come to the Philippines' defense?
So, Mike, I think our senior officials have been very clear about what circumstances we would consider that the treaty between the United States and the Philippines would come into play. And we've had close consultations with the Philippines about those circumstances. I do think it's important to say, Mike, that the Philippines are very cautious at this juncture. They do not seek a crisis with China. They are seeking dialogue, they're seeking discussion, and they want the United States to be purposeful with other allies and partners about our goals to maintain peace and stability and to send a very clear message of deterrence and reassurance, and we have done so. We've had very close consultations since with the Philippines. We've taken some private steps. I'm not going to go through everything here.
You're among friends.
I know. We've also significantly demarched the Chinese interlocutors. The challenge in circumstances like this, it is often the case that each player believes the other is testing them. And so I don't think China is, I don't think we are alone in feeling that we are being tested here. So the most important thing in this time frame is to be resolute, to be very clear publicly in our support for the Philippines, to draw very clear public and private lines of what we believe is essential for the maintenance of peace and stability, and then follow through on that. And I will just say that we are in another manifestation of the strategy that we described. 10 or 15 years ago, this would only be a dialogue between the United States and the Philippines. We're literally in consultations with over a dozen countries about shared approaches to maintain peace and stability there. The Biden administration also understands that three theaters, Europe, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific, are increasingly intertwined. The PRC, Russia, DPRK, and Iran are increasing coordination and security cooperation. I would say that the two countries that have done the most to support Russia's reconstitution of its defense industrial base since its first failed steps at an invasion in Ukraine have unquestionably been China and North Korea. In return, Russia is supporting advances in the military programs of all three of these partners. Indeed, Vladimir Putin visited the Democratic People's Republic of Korea for the first time in 20 years last week. There are limits to these partnerships, but they cannot be ignored. Our partners in the Indo-Pacific are not ignoring them. Skeptics sometimes call for a sharp reduction in U.S. support to Ukraine, even though this would free up no meaningful new outlays for Taiwan. An abrupt cessation of U.S. support to Ukraine would not only be a moral failure, it would be a strategic one too, not just in Europe, but in the Indo-Pacific. Far from a clever strategic readjustment eastward, friends and adversaries would see it as evidence that American political paralysis is eroding U.S. credibility and resolve as a security partner. It is a profound shift that our Indo-Pacific friends are standing up to support European security. I must underline this. Hugely different from a previous pattern when Asia-Pacific partners, Indo-Pacific partners would often sit on the sidelines for major developments.